So today we will discuss about life cycle models elaborately. So at first we have classical waterfall model. So this is very important model and this is very basic model, classical waterfall model. So in classical waterfall model we can divide the life cycle into different phases. Okay, so this is the feasibility study phase. Okay, and next after feasibility study we have requirement analysis and specification, then design phase. After that we have a coding and unit testing, then integration and system testing, and finally we have maintenance. Okay, so this is the classical waterfall model. Here you can see this is the only single way approach. Okay, from whenever you completed this phase 1, then only you can enter the requirement analysis phase. You don't have any provision to come back to the feasibility study step. Okay, that means if you have any error here, if you have any problem in this phase, then you can't do anything. Okay. So if you have any problem regarding this, that means suppose from requirement analysis you cannot come back, or from designing phase if you are just feeling that there are some error in requirement analysis phase, you cannot come back because this is a one way approach. Okay, whenever you have completed this step, then you can come here, and after that you can come to the design phase and then coding, testing, maintenance. So if there is any problem occurred, and that problem or that error you did not find out in that phase when you are in that phase. Okay, if you are finding out that yes, suppose you are designing the protocol, and when you are designing the protocol, you are means finding out a problem in the design phase, then okay, you can solve the problem. But if you have find out any problem in the requirement analysis phase, then you cannot come back. Okay, so whenever the whole product will be completed, then only you can check the whole thing at first from the first phase. Okay, and that means in this classical waterfall model, this is a very much drawback, that we cannot rectify the things if it is too late. Okay, you can rectify if you are in that phase, otherwise it will be problematic. Okay, so you need to emphasize on that there must not be any error on any phase. ঠিক আছে, কোনো error হলে কিন্তু হবে না। যদি if there is any error, there are different errors are there, then you have to come back when the product is completed. Okay, that means again you suppose there are any problem in designing phase and everything is done, the whole things is done, and then there are just finding out that some problems are there in designing phase. If there is any problem in design phase, that means you need to change the coding part also. Okay, that means you need to work much more on that, and it will be out of your cost estimation also, and your time estimation also violated. Okay, so classical waterfall model is the for a simple problem, whenever you are developing the problem and there are means when you are just completing the phase and go to the another phase, there should be no problem in that phase, then it will be okay. But if there is any problem, if the model is very critical and maybe in any phases there are some problem, means suppose you are in testing phase and you are seeing that there is problem in coding phase and you can't come back here, so this model is actually not for practical purpose. Okay, for conceptual purpose to know what is the model, different software lifecycle model, this is okay. Okay, but for practical purpose this classical waterfall model is failed. Okay, it cannot provide customer satisfaction. If you are developing in this way, so you can it may occur that your budget or your time can be exceed. Okay, ঠিক আছে, মানে তুমি একটা প্রোডাক্ট তৈরি করছো, তোমার ডিফারেন্ট ফেজ এখানে আছে, এবার তুমি কি করছো, কোডিং ফেজে আছো, কিন্তু দেখলে যে ডিজাইন ফেজে একটা সমস্যা হয়েছে, বাট ইউ ক্যানট কাম ব্যাক, তুমি আসতে পারছো না ডিজাইন ফেজে। So in that case what will happen, যদি ডিজাইন ফেজে না আসতে পারো তখন কি হবে, তোমাকে আবার কন্টিনিউ করতে হবে, অ্যান্ড ইউ ক্যান কাম ব্যাক when that whole product is completed. ওকে, সো ইট উইল বি প্রবলেমেটিক যখন পুরোটা কমপ্লিট হয়ে গেছে, ঠিক আছে, এভরিথিং ইজ ডান, অ্যান্ড আফটার দ্যাট ইউ আর রেক্টিফাইং সামথিং, অ্যান্ড এটা তো তোমার প্রত্যেকটার সাথে অ্যাসোসিয়েটেড না, তুমি ধরো ডিজাইন ফেজে কিছু চেঞ্জ করছো, সো ইউ নিড টু ডু দ্য কোডিং ফেজ অলসো, ইউ নিড টু চেঞ্জ দ্য কোডিং ফেজ অলসো। তো তার মানে কি, তোমাকে আবার পুরো সফটওয়্যারটা ডেভেলপ করতে হচ্ছে। ওকে, তাহলে তোমার টাইমটাও এক্সিড করে যাবে, বাজেটটাও এক্সিড করে দেবে। সো প্র্যাকটিক্যালি উই কান্ট ইউজ দিস টাইপ অফ মডেল। Okay, so relative effort for phases, so this is the thing that the maintenance phase have the highest maximum effort, it needs maximum effort rather than the development phase. And in testing, in case of development phases, the testing phase consumes maximum effort. Okay, so this is the classical waterfall model description. Most organizations usually define standards on the outputs produced at the end of every phase, entry and exit criteria for every phase. So you have entry and exit criteria for each and every phase. They also prescribe specific methodologies for specification, design and testing, project management. So different methodologies can be there for requirement analysis, requirement specifications, or designing phase, or testing and project management. They have different methodologies they have. Okay, so classical waterfall model, the guidelines and methodologies of an organization called the organization software development methodology. So each and every organization can have their own rules and regulation. Okay, so software development organization expect fresh engineers to master the organization's software development methodology. So they hire different software engineers, different they can be freshers or they can be masters in that area, so they can hire for this software development. So feasibility study, this is very important thing. The main aim of feasibility study is determine whether developing the product it can be financially worthwhile or technically feasible. Okay, so feasibility study means whether it is feasible technically and financially, your budget is permitted, and your technology, you have the proper techniques, proper technology with you. Okay, so you need to know that. So if you fulfill this criteria, the financial criteria and technical criteria, then it is okay, you can get the software, you can start to develop the software. Okay, so feasibility study is very important. First, roughly understand what the customer wants, different data which would be input to the system, processing needed on this data, output data to be produced by the system, and various constraints on the behavior of the system. So first, roughly what you need to understand, what is the different data, what is the input. Okay, what is the data you need to handle, you need to know that. So different data what would be input to the system, processing needed on this data. Okay, you need the processing, you need to do work on those data, so processing is obviously there, output data to be produced by the system. Okay, so then the data you can get the output, after processing you can get the output, and various constraints, there can be different rules and restrictions okay, on those data. So you need to know about different constraints on the behavior of the system. Okay, so whenever a system is producing any output and they have some constraints, you need to keep it in your mind that these are the constraints and these are the specifications you need to know. So constraints, various constraints on the behavior of the system you need to understand. Okay, so activities during feasibility study, what are the activities? Work out an overall understanding of the problem, you need to work out on overall understanding of the problem. So what is the problem, what is your actual, you need to do, you need to know that, you need to understand that. Okay, formulate different solution strategies. So for a single problem you can provide different solutions. Okay, your expert can provide you different solutions, but you need to take the optimal solution, that means the cost effective solution. Okay, cost means different types of cost, your budgetary monetary cost is there, and another thing is your timing and your execution time, your memory cost, each and everything should be there. Okay, so for a single problem you can have different solutions and you can take the optimal solutions. So examine alternate solution strategies in terms of resource requirement. So different requirement analysis, resource what you need to know that. Cost of development and development time. What is the cost of development, cost and development time, also important. Okay, so cost and timing, this is very much important to develop any software. Suppose you are developing a software, that means there are some client is giving you the project that just develop, just they have produced the project that just develop this type of software. So you need to follow the budget. Okay, you need to say what is your budget. That means your budget, when you are saying your budget to the client will pay you na for that. So you need to provide that budget what is satisfactory for the client, as well as you can provide, you can get some benefit also from that. So cost of development is very important thing. Okay, when a proposal is given to the proposal manager from a company, then they need to understand, they need to know what they need to judge, what can be the particular cost of the whole softwares. Okay, during the development phase you need to know. After that they can consult with the client, and if client is satisfied with that budget, there may be some negotiation can be there. Okay, so the client is satisfied, then only they can provide you the project. ওকে, তো যখন একটা প্রজেক্ট তোমাকে কোম্পানি আনছে, কোনো কোম্পানি পাচ্ছে, হ্যাঁ, তো ইন দ্যাট কেস তাকে কিন্তু ক্লায়েন্টের সাথে এই কস্ট অ্যান্ড টাইম এই দুটো নিয়ে কিন্তু এই এই কস্ট এস্টিমেশনটা তোমাকে দিতে হয়। মানে যে প্রজেক্ট প্রপোজাল ম্যানেজার আছে, হ্যাঁ, কোম্পানির থেকে, তাকে কিন্তু যে প্রপোজাল দিচ্ছে তাকে কিন্তু এই কস্টটা তো এই কস্টটা কিন্তু তোমাকে দিতে হবে। The project develop the company the proposal manager need to provide the budget. Okay, estimated cost. What is the estimation? You need to provide to the client. If client is satisfied, then they can provide you the project. Okay, তো এটা একটা তো মানে কোনো একটা প্রজেক্ট আনতে হলে তাহলে কস্টটা কিন্তু খুব বিশাল ম্যাটার করে। দেন টাইম, তুমি যে টাইমে ক্লায়েন্ট তোমার কাছে প্রজেক্টটা চাইছে তুমি সেই টাইমে ওটাকে প্রোভাইড করতে পারছো কিনা। ওকে, সো দ্যাট ইজ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট থিং, ডেভেলপমেন্ট টাইম। ওকে, সো নাও অ্যাক্টিভিটিস ডিউরিং ফিজিবিলিটি স্টাডি। হোয়াট আর দ্য ডিফারেন্ট অ্যাক্টিভিটিস? পারফর্ম আ কস্ট অর বেনিফিট অ্যানালিসিস। ইউ নিড টু পারফর্ম some cost analysis, and what is the benefit, you need to analyze that. Determine which solution is best. So for a single problem you can have different solutions, and you need to point out what is the particular solution, what is the perfect solution. You may determine that none of the solutions is feasible due to, it may happen that there are lots of solutions but none of the solutions is satisfactory, none of the solutions is feasible due to high cost, resource constraints and technical reasons. Okay, so for that the project can be, means you can discard the project. ঠিক আছে, তোমার যদি বাজেটে না হয়, তোমার যদি কস্ট খুব হাই হয়ে যায় এবং তোমার যদি ধরো you did not get the satisfactory means cost from the client end, then you cannot take the project from the client, because whenever you are developing the project you have a cost, you need to provide the means salary to your software developer. There are some resources are there, maintenance costs are there. Okay, technical costs are there, and if you are developing the project and the cost is higher than this type of cost, then you cannot get the project. So then you can say that this is failed to feasibility study phase. Okay, it cannot through the feasibility study phase. So because of high cost, resource constraints and technical reasons, you can discard your project. Okay, so this is the main thing. So what you have done during the feasibility study? So these are the things, that is the the cost and benefit analysis is there, and according to that you can discard your project. You can determine whether this is possible from your end or not. Okay, so now requirement analysis and specification. This is the second phase. This is very important phase, requirement analysis. So requirement means what? requirement means requirement of client, what type of requirements they want from your end. So you need to know that, so you need to analyze that, and you need to specify those things, and you need to provide the whole requirement analysis, the whole documentation to your client. If client approve, then only you can continue. Okay, because requirement of the client you need to end of the day, whenever you are whatever the project you are developing, so that is the requirement of the client, no? So you need to know what a client actually require, what is the particular requirement from client end. Okay, so aim of this phase is what? Understand the exact requirement of the customer. That is very important thing. You need to know what the customer want. Okay, if you don't understand what they want, then you are developing something but they want something, that means your project is failed. Okay, so requirement analysis and specification is very important thing, and you need to document the whole thing properly. Okay, so proper documentation is required. For requirement analysis and specifications, you need to understand what is the exact requirement of the customer, and proper documentation you need to provide to the customer. Okay, before starting the project, you need to provide that. That is the requirement analysis and specification from your end. Whatever we have understand that this is your requirement, and we need to develop these things for you. Okay, so you need to consult with the client. If client says yes, this is our requirement and this is perfectly okay, your documentations and all the information is okay, then you can continue. Okay, so now consists of two distinct activities. This in requirement analysis we have two distinct activities, that is requirements gathering and analysis. You can gather the different requirements you need to gather, collect from the clients, and you need to analyze those. And requirement specifications, what are the particular requirements, you need to specify that. So these two things is very important, that requirements gathering and analysis and requirement specifications. Okay, so after that, goals of requirement analysis. What are the goals? That is collect all related data from the customer. You need to collect all related data from the customer, analyze the collected data to clearly understand what the customer wants. Okay, that is very important thing. That means whenever you are developing a software according to the client, you need to understand what is actually client's requirement, what the customer want from your software. So you need to analyze it minutely. Okay, so analyze the collected data to clearly understand what the customer wants, and find out any inconsistencies and incompleteness in the requirements. Then you need to find out, is there any inconsistency? I mean, what the data you have collected from the customer and what you are actually ready for the documentation part. In the documentation part, you have done some requirement analysis, so you need to find out whether any inconsistency is there, whether there is any discrimination is there. You need to find out that. Okay, so find out any inconsistencies and incompleteness in the requirement. You need to find out that, and resolve all inconsistencies and incompleteness. If there is any gap, suppose there are something client forget to provide you, so you need to ask to the client that yes, these are the points we have got from you, but there are some points we need to clarify. Okay, so you need to clarify with the client that there is a gap, this type of information we require. Okay, so this is the thing, otherwise the whole thing cannot be complete. Okay, so if you have any type of, if you have find out any this type of problem, then you need to consult with the client, and that means you need to resolve all inconsistencies and completeness. How you can resolve it? You need to consult with the client. Okay, so this is the thing. And after the requirement gathering, what is requirement gathering? Requirement gathering means what? So requirement gathering means what? Requirement gathering means gathering relevant data. So you need to collect relevant data. This term is very important, relevant data. What data is actually required for your project? You need to collect it. usually collected from the end users through interviews and discussions. Okay, suppose you want to develop a product, a software. So for that you need to understand what can be the different data. Suppose you want to develop a project suppose some for medical purpose. Okay, for medical purpose you need to develop something, so you need to know what are the different type of things different for medical purpose you need to consult with hospitals or doctors. You need to you need to take the interview of doctors, that what they want, what they say about different diseases. So how many diseases categories can be there, or different types of patients can be there. So you need to ask to the doctors, you need to take the interview for of doctors. Okay, so then only you can collect those data, and then only you can provide these fields in your software. Okay, so you need to collect the relevant data. Okay, through which? Through the interviews and discussions. For example, for a business accounting software, if it is a business purpose, interview all the accountants of the organization to find out their requirements. Okay, so if it is a business accounting software, so you need to consult with the all the accountants of the organizations. Okay, so accountants must be provide you the proper things, that yes, we need to handle this type of data. So in your software this type of things need to available, this type of fields can be there. Okay, so according to that you can develop it. Okay, so this is a requirement gathering. This is very important thing. What are the requirements? You need to gather all those things. Then requirement analysis. The data you initially collect from the users would usually contain several contradictions and ambiguities. So there are different contradictions and ambiguities are there. So you need to আচ্ছা একটু না তোমরা একটু আগে আগে ঢুকবে, এখন তো ক্লাস প্রায় শেষের দিকে, 11:40 বাজে। ঠিক আছে, আগে ঢুকে যেও, 10 মিনিটের মধ্যে সবাই ঢুকে যেও। ঠিক আছে প্রত্যয়ী, এই ক্লাসটা তো 11:10 থেকে স্টার্ট হয়েছে, তো 10 মিনিটের মধ্যে কিন্তু সবাই ঢুকে যেও। So this is the requirement analysis. So requirement, the data whatever you have collected from the users, you need to analyze those. Would usually contain several, there can be different contradictions and ambiguities can be there. Okay, so you need to analyze those, and each user typically has only a partial and incomplete view of the system. Okay, so each user cannot see each and everything in the system, so they have the partial and incomplete view of the system. Okay, so data, there may be some contradictions. That means if you are taking interviews of 100 people, maybe there are some contradictions between their needs. Okay, and all those needs you may not provide in your software, but you need to after analysis you need to take some decisions, that yes, this type of things can fulfill all their demands. Okay, so you need to analyze those. Then ambiguities and contradictions must be identified. So these things must be identified and resolved by discussions with the customers. So anything, whatever their problems, or if there is any contradictions or ambiguities, so you need to discuss with the customers. Okay, if you don't understand what is the actual requirement, then you need to talk with customers. So that is the only solution. Okay, with discussions you can solve all the things. Okay, so next, requirements are organized into software requirement specification document. So SRS document is very important thing. After that you need to prepare an SRS document, software requirement specification document, and that document you need to provide to the client. Okay, so engineers doing requirements analysis and specifications are designated as analysts. Okay, who are doing this type of things? They are called analysts. Okay, so after this we have design phase. So okay, in the design phase we are developing a particular prototyping model, prototype of a software. So design phase transform requirement specifications. So all those requirements what you have, just you provide the prototype model, a small model of your demands. Okay, what you want. So design phase transform the requirements specifications into a form suitable for implementation in some programming language. So you are developing a prototyping model so that you can develop these things with some programming language. So designing phase also very important thing, and in technical terms during design phase software architecture is derived from the SRS document. So there are two SRS document. From this SRS document they can design the software architecture. So SRS document is very important because on means basic of this SRS document you are developing the architecture, software architecture. Whenever the architecture is done, then the coding is started, and if that means the actual developing is starting at that phase. Okay, so SRS documentation is very important. Okay, if there is any wrong in SRS document, then the whole software may fail. Okay, so this is very important thing. So two design approaches are there. There is traditional approach and object oriented approach. So you can take a design approach can be a traditional normal procedural or modular programming language you can use, or it can be a object oriented approach. Okay, so traditional design approach consists of two activities. It can be a structured analysis and structured design. Okay, so in the next class we will discuss about that, structured analysis and structured design. This is a very important thing. So that's all for today.